Hello, I'm Steve Weber, the host of Essential Book Drop. Today, we're going to ignore books entirely. We're going to reflect on one of the massive pop songs of 1965, the Beatles tune 8 Days a Week. As we look back at that massive hit song with the benefit of hindsight, the lyrics, the title, it sounds kind of absurd. 8 days a week doesn't even sound plausible today.
Hi, Steve. Yeah, what a fascinating idea for a deep dive. So, hello, everyone.
It got me thinking, actually, about time off, the weekend. Do you have anything fun planned?
Oh, I'm hoping something will come up. What about you?
I don't know. I'll probably do some reading. Maybe watch some Antiques Roadshow. I might stay up late tonight, then sleep in. Maybe on Saturday I'll watch a little football, drink a couple of beers, and during halftime at the football games I'll probably listen to some Beatles tunes, like 8 days a week. And I'll have the volume at 11 out of 10. If the neighbors get mad, they can kiss my ass.
That sounds really fun, Steve. Enjoy it.
But, even planning that downtime, it makes me think about how much we guard those 7 days now. And that's why the source material we're looking at is so interesting. It uses this piece of pure pop magic to reflect on time itself. So our mission today, figure out how a song born of pure nonsense and hyperbole somehow became a blueprint for our demanding 21st century labor habits.
It really is the ultimate irony, isn't it? How did this utopian expression of just devotion and love, like, I love you so much, I wish time could bend, how did that turn into what feels like a dystopian mandate for endless work?
Okay, so let's unpack this. Starting with what the source calls the great absurdity. 8 days a week was an absolute smash hit. I mean, quintessential Beatles magic, right? Captured their untouchable superstardom perfectly. But the most famous thing about it is just its sheer glorious nonsense. And the world just swallowed it whole.
Yeah, and to really get the depth of that absurdity, you got to look at how the song even came about. It wasn't some deep philosophical statement. The fascinating thing is that the title basically came from a charming misquote by Ringo Starr. He was just frustrated with their crazy schedule. John and Paul heard it, instantly saw the pop hook potential, polished it up, and bang, #1.
Okay.
It was a sound of success so huge that the band, they operated with their own set of physics, really.
And we absolutely have to remember the context here. We're talking 1964, 1965. For most working folks, especially in Western countries, the whole idea of a 7-day week, 40-hour work week, that was still relatively new and fiercely defended. There was a clear line, work time, leisure time, communication was slow print, broadcast news, a day off was really a day off.
All right, that context is just crucial. The idea of even wanting an extra day felt indulgent. But the fact that people just accepted this absurdity from a pop band, well, that speaks to what the source calls the Beatles exemption. Paul McCartney even admitted it was just exaggeration hyperbole for I love you very much. Simple as that. But their fame, it gave them this kind of invisible shield against common sense. Culturally, they were just massive enough to say they were bigger than the Gregorian calendar, and everyone just sort of nodded along.
They weren't just musicians. They were cultural disruptors, weren't they? They made the impossible seem normal. They basically taught the whole world that if something feels great and it's delivered with enough charm and that driving beat, well, the logistics just don't matter. It created this expectation that reality could bend for pleasure. The source even calls them the original tech disruptors, but using chords instead of coding, disrupting the clock itself.
Exactly. And if you look at their output back then, they really lived that 8-day schedule, didn't they? Recording, touring, films, dealing with Beatlemania. It was just nonstop.
Yeah.
So when they say about 8 days, maybe it wasn't just about love. Maybe it reflected the sheer energy and, honestly, the limitless demands of their own lives.
Right.
They were giving us a product, pure joy delivered, 8 days a week.
Right. The fact that the impossibility of it all was just secondary to the feeling, that highlights the power of pop culture to reshape how we see things. The number 8 back then was pure fantasy, utterly utopian. It meant limitless fun.
And this sets up that really profound contrast that we need to dig into now. This brings us to the second part, that dramatic time shift. We need to contrast how that 8-day week felt in the mid-60s, like this exuberant utopian fantasy, versus how that same idea lands today, which is often like a quiet kind of dystopian reality.
Yeah, back when the song came out, the idea of an endless week, it tapped into the freedom of the era, right? If you had an extra day, what would you do? More dancing, more loving, more fun. That was the vibe. Listeners were buying into this giddy belief that life could be more than the mundane 7-day cycle demanded. It was pop paradise where time stretched for pleasure.
But connect this to the bigger picture, like 50 years later. The mid-60s listener hears infinite love. The modern listener, though, facing this always-on economy, they hear infinite work. That's the absolute core transformation, that utopian dream of an extra day. It's been co-opted, weaponized almost by the demands of labor.
And think about that modern interpretation. If some relentlessly hustling pop star or maybe a CEO put this out today, it wouldn't feel like a celebration of love. It would just land with this heavy cultural thud. It wouldn't sound charming at all. It would sound like a threat, really, a threat to boundaries.
It absolutely would. It would sound like, the tyrannical demands of a boss who expects instant replies to complicated emails at like 11 p.m. on a Sunday. The absurdity is gone. It's just been replaced by this palpable anxiety.
Yeah.
And the reason you hear a threat today is because psychologically, many of us are already living a kind of 8-day week.
So what does this all mean for us now? This song, born from wanting more love, more time, it unknowingly set the stage. It paved the way for a world that would, decades later, try to physically manifest that extra day, but not for love, for labor.
You see it everywhere, don't you? That complete erosion of traditional boundaries.
Yeah.
That 8th day isn't a fun fantasy anymore. It's the sort of quiet requirement of so much contemporary work. I mean, think about the gig economy, where work and life are deliberately blurred. Constant availability is key. Or the whole quantified self thing, where productivity is always measured, optimized, pushing us to fill every single available minute.
And that available minute, so often it falls on Sunday afternoon, doesn't it? Which becomes our catch-up day. The Beatles dreamed of romance and connection in that extra time. We use our 8th day, which is really just the bleeding edge of our supposed time off to answer work emails, do admin, deal with that constant pressure to be on.
And that's the real prophecy hidden in the song, I think. The hyperbole was meant as playful rebellion against the strictness of the calendar. But our current 8-day reality, that constant digital tether, feels more like a quiet resignation, a sense that the clock is permanently broken. And we're paying the price, in lost downtime, increased burnout.
It's genuinely amazing how a silly little line meant as the biggest expression of affection became the perfect symbol for modern labor creep. The song wasn't about work, but it perfectly captured this cultural shift where the professional world started demanding that same limitless commitment the Beatles got from their fans. The hyperbole became the harbinger.
Wow. It does raise a really important question, though. How often do we accept something absurd or impossible? Whether it's in pop culture or a political slogan or maybe a new tech standard, just because it's delivered with enough charisma, enough charm, only to find out later that it's solidified, that it's become this accepted, difficult reality we can't easily escape anymore, something to maybe think about the next time your phone buzzes after hours.
That's simple number 8. It really does summarize both things perfectly, doesn't it? The limitless, boundary-pushing creativity of the band at their absolute peak, and the future pressure of a society that eventually just shattered the calendar, broke the clock. All for labor, not love.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Every morning, it's all brand new. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Absolutely. Until next time, be rigorous about protecting your 7 days. Farewell, everyone.
Until then, keep on opening new worlds with great songs, even if they were recorded a half-century ago. And whatever you do, remember this. When the hook drops, your mind becomes a 4-minute dance floor.
You're so right, Steve. Turn the volume up as loud as you want.